Hey, we are back. Glad to have Jessi here today, and I want to make sure I get this correct. North Georgia Senior Living with Jessi Barton, Community Relations Director, Cameron Hall, LJ.
That's a mouthful.
How'd I do?
Perfect.
I cheated though. Brian sent it to me. It's so important I didn't want to screw it up.
No worries. You can even just call me whatever. Well, not whatever, but
I'm going to call you a Community Relations Director, Jessi Barton. How's that?
that works.
What are we going to talk about today?
So I had an interesting week.
Okay.
So one of the things that I do in my role is I work with families who are thinking about moving their loved ones in, but then I've also got a piece in that community relations that's outreach. So about 4 years ago, I was doing a capstone project in my gerontology class. I had a really good friend with Gwinnett PD, and we were talking about what do we do when somebody goes missing? What do we do when there's a Maddie's call? So that kind of spurred a project in which I talked about how important training is for public safety and law enforcement about how do you handle people with dementia?
At-risk seniors.
At-risk seniors, especially with dementia, that's considered a disability. So that kind of led into me training public safety personnel on how to approach dementia patients when you're responding to a call. How do you handle them? How do you quickly make an assessment? And then it's funny how things lead to one another, because now it led to, I took a class this week. So, at-risk adults, anybody 18 and over, not specifically seniors, but we do tend to think of seniors because there's an elder abuse component to it.
Right. So
I have sat for 2 days and learned all about elder abuse, financial exploitation, physical abuse.
The fake calls that maybe come over the telephone that they're subject to.
The scams that can actually fall under racketeering now. There was a change in the Georgia statute. So it was interesting to see how vulnerable these people are and how often it goes unnoticed.
The piece that you talked about law enforcement, it would be interesting to see how many law enforcement agencies really have that component, because I can see where it would come about if they encounter a patient with dementia.
Right.
The first reaction is, this person's not acting rational. Does he have a gun? Does he have a knife? Does she have a gun? Are they coming after me?
Sure.
Do they want an officer involved shooting? So they've got
a split second to protect themselves.
Exactly.
And we want to protect our law enforcement. We need our law enforcement. So they've got a split second. I actually called several agencies when I was doing my project.
Nice.
Atlanta, Cobb. I even touched in some of our North Georgia areas here. They don't have it.
Crickets.
They don't have Alzheimer's training. It may be covered in an hour of mental health, maybe once a year. The fortunate thing is the Georgia Public Safety Training Center down in near Macon in Forsyth, Georgia, has developed a crisis intervention training program. What that does, it covers all kinds of crisis intervention, but they do have an hour now where a representative from the Alzheimer's Association come in and train. So that is where I've started kind of plugging in and being able to reach out to these agencies and go into their crisis intervention team trainings.
Tell us again about the Maddie alert.
So the Maddie's call is actually Georgia specific. States in the U.S. have similar things. They might be a silver alert. They might not have a name, but in Georgia it was based on an incident that happened. A lady went missing.
And her name happened to be Maddie.
Maddie Moore. Very famous case. She went missing, if I have my dates correct, she went missing around Christmas, or she was found in Christmas. Anyway, there was an 8-month span from where she went missing. Her husband was in the home at the time, could not be found, and it was like an 8-month span, and she was found 500 yards away from her house. That's not far.
5 football fields away.
Right.
Probably about a block and a half.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
Easily. And not that we're saying that the search and rescue wasn't effective. They can get gone quickly. People can move quickly. If I was yelling, Maddie, Maddie, and she's got hallucinations, she's going the opposite direction because somebody's going to get her. So,
today we've got all of the communication devices we could ever want. I hear stories from my friends about their parents sometimes when we didn't have the ability to communicate by cell phone. When were there? Sorry.
Speaking of cell phones, that was
on cue.
The perfect timing.
That was on cue.
That's awesome.
Come on, Brian, leave me alone. He's afraid he's going to lose his job, I think.
Is that Brian calling?
No.
I was going to say, why are you calling?
Anyway, what I was getting to was, we've got all these fancy communication devices now. We didn't have those then.
Sure.
And I talked to parents. I talked to friends whose parents might have gotten in the car and they drove, and all of a sudden they become disoriented. They don't know where they are.
Right.
They don't have the ability. They might have they might have a mini stroke out there or something like that. These are the at-risk people a lot of times that you're talking about. Is that correct?
These are. And honestly, what ends up happening, one thing that was really focused on are these people who prey on our elderly.
Right.
Maybe they are in a homeless situation, or they don't have family to take care of them, and this person says, hey, you can come live with me, but you need to sign over your check and I'll make sure you're taken care of. And then what happens is these people are put in, we saw some pictures, and it was absolutely deplorable conditions. So just, kind of going on what Brian and I talked about with, medications and community settings. If you've got family, follow up, make sure they're being taken care of. If you've got family taking care of a family member, kind of watch out for that situation, because 90% of elder abuse happens from family. So
90%.
90%.
Wow, that's amazing. Talk to us a little bit about phone scams.
Sure. Phone scams are,
again,
absolutely
huge. At risk at home. Someone may call, tug at their heartstrings.
They play on the emotions, and the biggest one right now that I want to warn you about, and these are people a lot of times overseas. So it's very hard to get your money back. Once you have sent money away to these people, it can be difficult to get your money back. So the grandparent scheme, they call in, these people have done research online, they found out about this person, they may call in the evenings when there's sundowning happening, so they're not completely logically thinking, and they say, I've got your grandson and he has been in an accident and you need to send $7,000
so that we can give him treatment.
Yes, or he doesn't go to jail, or
right.
we can give him treatment. And we actually did a case study on one lady who was a little savvy on it, and she said, I don't remember him being on a mission trip. I don't think this is correct. So they were like, oh, okay, we got to take it up a level. They started threatening, well, we can't help what might happen to your grandson if you don't send the money then. They go into threatening these people and coercing them, and what happens is then wires are sent across the seas. So. And
bye-bye.
That happened to my uncle. They said that he was in jail, his grandson was in jail, and he had to send him like $10,000 bail money.
Yes, and these, and a lot of times it'll be like, I had one happen to my friend, and they were playing the grandson's role. Please don't call mom and dad. You were my one call because I trust you.
Folks, this is stuff, folks, this is not isolated to this area. Mm-mm. This is happening literally worldwide.
Worldwide.
And it's happening big time in this country. It's happening on a daily basis. We want to just so fervently reach out and make sure that the elderly are being taken care of and that they're not being abused, that monitor if you can the way they spend their money. If you see some irregularity in there,
absolutely.
If you see an irregularity, do something about it. Don't just sit by idly and say, well, they probably, that's their money. They can do what they want. Mm-hmm. They may be taking advantage of. Great segment, Jessi.
Thank you.
Very, very nice. And I'm glad that you take the time to do the education and follow up on that. That's why you are the Community Relations Director at Cameron Hall.
I do have to brag. I was super excited.
Come on and brag.
Having friends in public safety. I did get my first little patch, even though I'm not a certified officer. I do have a little patch, so I felt all official.
Giddy up. Georgia Department of Human Services, DSA Certified Specialist, At-Risk Crime Tactics. at-risk certified specialist, Jessi Hall. Take a look at that, Lonnie. That is a nice, you can wear that proudly.
I'm excited about it.
Post that in your office.
Yes, definitely.
Great job.
Thank
Great
you.
job. Jessi, thanks for being with us again.
Absolutely.
You always
Thank
bring
you.
phenomenal information to the show. All right, we're going to take a short break here, and then we will bring the star of the show. Not Rena, but who? Atlas. We'll bring in Atlas. And he is not shrugging today, folks. He is ready to show off. Take us to break, Lonnie.